And what exactly is wrong with finding the one? You just sound like a bitter broad who will never find the one. I don't know. Maybe she has a sympathy simp, that a male feminist, okay, that's busting her down, or maybe put a ring on it. I don't know this woman, but it makes sense why you would be upset with people pushing the idea of finding the one, because it's not going to happen for you. We have someone calling Brett Cooper a hypocrite. Now, I am going to go into this with an open mind, okay? You guys know I love me some Brett Cooper. However, we don't stand people over here. Let's see if she presents a good argument as to why she believes Brett Cooper is a hypocrite. Now, this video is an hour long, an hour and 20 minutes, okay? Realistically, I'm not about to react to the whole thing. So if you guys want to see the entirety of this video, this is Brett Cooper, a Muddled Hypocrite by Rachel Oates.
For those of you who don't know who Brett Cooper is, congratulations, your life is so much better than mine. But for context, she is a 24-year-old right-wing political commentator who used to host the Daily Wire show/YouTube channel, The Comment Section with Brett Cooper, but these days, since around January 2025, she's gone independent and has her own YouTube channel.
Oh, your life is so much better than mine. You do realize you could not watch the content, right? You don't have to engage with her community. You don't have to engage with her content. You can pretend like she doesn't exist. I've done it plenty of times with people in my real life and then people online. Like, girl, you could detach. Clearly, you don't want to, because you're making money and content off of talking about these people. So, you know, the idea of, oh, my life, girl, you probably made 74,000 views. You've made some money off of the idea, the person that is Brett Cooper. So let's be so for real. Your life isn't worse because she exists, okay? Your life isn't worse because of the Daily Wire. You've made money, okay, off of them.
One New York Times article about Brett had the tagline, "Brett Cooper is spreading conservatism one celebrity drama at a time." The YouTuber set out to reach young conservatives who felt alienated by mainstream culture. Now she's the newest face at Fox News, though dreaming of her own goop. Yeah, like that goop. And you know how I feel about the overpriced pseudoscientific nonsense that preys on people's vulnerabilities, that is goop and other pseudoscience and woo like that. They had things like psychic vampire repellent that you could spray to keep psychic vampires away.
I've heard of goop. It's a bunch of pseudo nonsense. It's very cultish. I am curious to know the context of Brett Cooper saying she wants her own goop. Maybe it's more so about the influence rather than the products itself. I don't know. Hopefully she'll give some evidence as to what Brett Cooper was saying about that, give some context to it, because goop is crazy as hell. I'm not even gonna lie.
But anyway, I think this alone, again, says a lot about Brett's morals and how she prioritizes her ambitions over the well-being of her audience.
Yeah, that's not fair, because she hasn't released any products. It'd be one thing if she already started releasing products that are stupid, like this vampire repellent crap. That'd be one thing. But for her to just say that she wants, you know, something like goop doesn't necessarily mean along with all of the nonsensical products. Like I said, you haven't shown the context of her saying that. What did she say around it? Because there could be some things that she's saying around that quote that could make it make more sense. You're making this connection without actually showing that she was speaking on the nonsensical products aspect of it. So you have to prove that first before you say that statement.
Plus, for someone who claims to be against feminism, and she brings that up in pretty much every video, she goes, feminism's bad, it's feminism's fault, blame feminism. For someone who claims to be against feminism, she is, in the same vein as people like Candace Owens and Just Pearly Things, actively benefiting from feminism constantly. She is a massive hypocrite. She has millions of subscribers, she makes plenty of money for herself, she works whilst being a mother and wife, she is active in mainstream politics, and she wants her own goop-style business empire, none of which she could even come close to doing without feminism.
This is a disingenuous argument, because most times when people complain about feminism, now Pearl, she's different, okay? She's one of those, oh, women shouldn't vote. We can disregard Pearl. Pearl is everything this woman is saying. However, when it comes to like Brett Cooper, they're not talking about feminism as a whole. They're not talking about every single wave of feminism when they say that feminism is a problem. Most of the time when people say that they are against feminism, I'm one of those people, we're talking about a specific wave of feminism that honestly is setting women backwards. Okay, this idea that your value is tied to what you can do that is similar to what a man can do, that is, in my opinion, very anti-woman. Also, you have a brand of feminists that want to promote trans women as being real women. That's very anti-feminist, in my opinion, and actually quite misogynist, because a lot, not all, but a lot of these trans women are very hateful towards real women. They don't care about how uncomfortable they make us feel. They have no care in the world. That's why you had that situation where that Black woman was in the gym and that man exposed himself. She cries foul, and then he just sachets back into the woman's bathroom to harass more women. There is a specific wave of feminism that is very anti-woman. I don't think that Brett Cooper and Candace Owens are entirely against women working. Obviously, they are working. I don't think that Brett Cooper and Candace Owens necessarily are against women being able to vote. And even Pearly Things, she's over here saying women shouldn't vote, but she's very political for some reason. Makes no sense to me. When it comes to people like this woman, Rachel, it seems like she just wants to take the overarching feminism as a whole and then not actually think about what they're complaining about. They're not complaining about women being able to work. Now, Candace Owens, she did kind of talk about how that was the downfall of, the economy. And I think she made some really strong points there. Companies could charge us more for products because we had 2-income households. So they started jacking up the price for things. So there is an argument to be made there. You're mischaracterizing their arguments in an effort to call them hypocrites, because it would be hypocritical if they said women should not have the ability to work, women should not have the ability to this, and then be out there doing the very same thing. You're already starting off in bad faith. The fifth wave of feminism, I think that's what they call it, right? Where things just got really unhinged, where it became very, we hate men, we want to be like men, crapping on everything that women can do naturally, things that are exclusive to us, crapping on that, like bearing children, being a mother, all of these different things. You're already starting off on a really bad foot with this argument.
The one we're going to be responding to today is about her hypocritical views about being a woman, dating, marriage, and motherhood. And there's some really harmful stuff in here. But she also has plenty of videos about other topics as well. She is very against immigration, she hates trans people, and she is constantly belittling famous women who just so happen to be more successful and beautiful and talented than her, but that's nothing to do with it. It's definitely not jealousy.
You're throwing these claims out here. Right now, they're baseless. The idea of saying that she hates trans women, I've watched enough Brett Cooper to understand where she's coming from. It's not about hating trans women. It's about wanting us as women to have respect, wanting us to have our separate spaces. It's not about hating, right? It's about respecting ourselves. If I do not want to change in front of a biological man, I shouldn't be forced to do so. If I don't want my daughter competing against biological boys, that is my prerogative as a woman. It doesn't mean that I hate. Y'all really conflate the idea of hate with the idea of wanting fairness or the idea of wanting respect. So we have to give all this respect to their mental illness, because that's what this is, their mental illness, while they pay us very little, okay? They don't want us calling them, trannies and all this other stuff. But when we say, oh, don't call me a cis woman, I'm a real woman, don't call me a cis woman, then it's, oh my God, well, I'm just da-da-da-da-da. Like, it's stupid. You want a one-way street when it comes to respect, and that's the problem. So it has nothing to do with hate. It has everything to do with respect. It has everything to do with respecting our boundaries as biological women and respecting our spaces that were designed specifically for us. I'm be honest, I'm expecting some more mischaracterizations. You haven't proved anything that you said so far. We're already 5 minutes into the video. You haven't shown any evidence of anything. If you're going to start making these claims, I'm gonna need you to start giving me some evidence.
Today, the one we're talking about is women are wrong about what men really want, which sounds like it will infuriate me from the title alone, right? And it's even more annoying when you realize that throughout this video, Brett is just constantly blaming women for things that are pretty much men's faults. It's like men have this flaw, and she's like, and then women complain about this, and how bad is that because the women are doing it? And it's like, really? But that's just like some of the video. The rest of it is honestly like quite a muddled mess. It's all over the place. The premise of this video is basically about her responding to things she saw on Twitter, or X as it's now called, which is just a hub of American anger, hate and bigotry at this point. Yet she seems to think it's indicative of every person around the world ever. It's like she seems completely incapable of understanding that people in other cultures exist.
So you expect her to talk about women as a whole. When we're American, we're talking about America. You want us to talk about what's going on in your country, what's going on in all these other countries when it comes to women. Most of the time, we're talking about our issues here in America, unless we specifically go out of our way, because Brett Cooper, from my understanding, is an American woman. We're going to be talking about what's going on here in America. And if you really wanted to have a conversation about women as a whole, that video would be very broad. That video would have to be extremely broad, and it would be very difficult to pinpoint one particular perspective. You have women in India, you have women in Saudi Arabia, and women all around the world are experiencing different problems. Like, there's nothing wrong with Brett Cooper focusing on the issues of American women because she is an American woman. Now, if she did start talking about women in other countries, guess what your criticism would be then? Well, you don't know what's going on there, so why are you speaking? Let's be so for real here. Brett Cooper is talking about women in America because she's an American woman.
Well, guys, according to X, my husband probably hates my postpartum body and is statistically proven to leave me. There is a raging debate on X right now about women's postpartum bodies, what that means for their attractiveness and their marriages, and women wanting to have children or being too afraid to have children.
I mean, yeah, sadly, that does often happen. There's both stats and plenty of anecdotal evidence to suggest that this is true in a lot of cases. Not all, of course, but quite a lot. Stats also show that, sadly, men are more likely to leave their wives if they get a serious illness like cancer too. If a man is diagnosed with something like cancer, then chances are their wife or partner will stay with them. But if a woman gets it, especially if it's something like breast cancer or ovarian cancer, there's a much higher chance that their male partner will leave them. It's a sad statistical truth. And again, this is not saying all men will do this. Stats aren't prescriptive, they're descriptive.
And see, my problem with a lot of stats, and this goes across the board, not just with stats that I disagree with, stats across the board, people like to throw them out there, but they don't ever tell you the sample size. They don't ever tell you, different things that were not considered. They'll just throw that stat out there and then just expect you to adopt it. I'm like, no, if you're going to bring up stats, then you need to do so in an intellectually honest manner. You have to bring up what was the sample size, what were the different parameters, what did they not consider, what did they consider. You have to give us all of this information before you give us a statistic. That way we know what we're consuming. But people like this, they don't actually understand statistics. So they'll just read something and be like, oh my God, look, a statistic that backs up my point. And then they'll present it. But they don't know how to honestly present a statistic. You have to explain the parameters around how that statistic was found so that your audience has a realistic understanding of that statistic. Because if there were so many different things, so many different factors that were not considered, then that statistic is not trustworthy. We can't trust that statistic at that point, because I could literally get a massive amount of money, pay an institute to find me a statistic that I want and hide it behind a bunch of nonsense. And then people will read the article, they'll read the paper and be like, oh yeah, this is true. The whole time, if you looked at the details of how they conducted the study, then you'll be like, wait a minute. The math ain't mathin', because there was a lot not included in the math. I really dislike when people bring up statistics without telling you, and this is across the board. I don't care who does it. I hate when they bring up statistics, but then they never show you all of the information surrounding the statistic.
But it's something that has happened to plenty of women and continues to happen, and it's something that we can't just ignore and pretend isn't happening, But what does this have to do with the title of the video and this all being women's fault? Well, don't worry, we'll get there after a long journey into Brett's mind. Before then, she needs to make a massive deal about a stupid joke some woman made on Twitter. It's harmless.
But there was one post in particular that made me want to talk about this. It was a viral tweet from last week from this girl named Nicole, and she posted a meme from Gossip Girl of Leighton Meester, and she said, y'all really want to get married and have sex with the same person for the rest of your life? All capital letters. The audacity, the insanity. And so that was posted on October 5th, and it has a whopping 20 million views. 20 million impressions on X.
Yeah, so it got a bunch of views and a few thousand likes, but so what? It's a joke from someone saying they can't imagine being in a monogamous relationship forever.
Every everyone responds to people's jokes online by discussing like the serious implications of it. Look, there are women that genuinely feel that way. Miss Women Across the World, we all had da-da-da-da-da. There are women that actually feel that way, okay? They're very vocal about it on TikTok. I've reacted to several women that damn near have that same perspective. Akasha's wife is one of them. She out her mouth has talked about how she reminisces about popping her pee in frat houses, not even wanting to think about her husband while she's doing the do, you know, flicking the bean. She's possibly joking, but can we not respond to so-called jokes anymore and then talk about the deeper meanings behind it? Like, girl, you're reaching.
And some other non-monogamous people agreed and found it funny and gave it a like. That's all. It doesn't warrant a 20-minute video being made about it, you know? Or maybe it's not even just about like non-monogamy at all. Maybe it's just this person laughing because they know that, you know, marriage is a huge commitment and they know it's something that they aren't personally ready for at this point in their life, and they're chuckling about the idea that like, oh, other people are doing that, or, you know, maybe one day I'll do that. Isn't it a huge thing? It's a joke. It's just a harmless, silly joke.
Do you know that person? They could be dead ass. How do you know? You want to write it off as they're just saying a joke. They could be dead ass serious. They could mean exactly what they're saying, but you want to characterize it as a joke to make it seem like Brett Cooper is making a mountain out of a molehill. But it's like, you don't know. She could be serious.
It's not a big deal. It's not that deep. This is literally just one woman on Twitter, and she is, you know, she's representative of a lot of women out there, but she's also not representative of a lot of women. There are still plenty of people who want that monogamy, they want that committed relationship, they want that long-term marriage, and they look forward to it. Plenty of people don't. This is just a silly joke for them. If it doesn't refer to you, just move on, scroll past it.
Following the same logic, then why aren't you just scrolling past Brett Cooper's videos? Why aren't you just scrolling past anything that comes out of the Daily Wire? It's just their opinions. You want to tell people to just ignore different things that they find interesting or find controversial, but then you want to engage in that same behavior by making an hour-long video about something Brett Cooper said. Like, let's be so for real here. You're engaging in the very behavior that you're kind of nitpicking at Brett Cooper for doing. It's just these people, they have no self-awareness, none whatsoever.
It's not a big deal. It's not actively judging you in any way. It's just this person being like, oh, can you believe? Like, it's
not judging. Are we looking at the same thing? This is the face of judgment. What do you mean she's not judging you? The whole statement is a judgmental statement. She wants to pretend like we don't have eyes, like we don't have memories, like we don't know what this face is, like we don't know what this statement means. This is a judgmental statement.
This is literally just one woman on Twitter, and she is, you know, she's representative of a lot of women out there, but she's also not representative of a lot of women. There are still plenty of people who want that monogamy, they want that committed relationship, they want that long-term marriage, and they look forward to it. Plenty of people don't. This is just a silly joke for them. If it doesn't refer to you, just move on, scroll past.
The same thing with Brett Cooper's views. There are women that have her views. There are women that don't. So why not just scroll past? These people have no idea what they're saying because it could apply to you too. This same like, oh, we should just scroll past, it applies to you too. Why aren't you just scrolling past? And just because there's groups that agree and groups that disagree, first of all, that's gonna apply to anything. There's always gonna be people that are for and against things. So this is nonsensical to begin with. Just because there are people that think differently doesn't mean we can't have a conversation about this kind of thought process. It doesn't mean that we can't have a conversation about this type of ideology just because there are people that disagree. Like, that's silly.
It's not a big deal. It's not actively judging you in any way. It's just this person being like, oh, can you believe? Like, it's fine. It's like, to give you an analogy, right? Imagine if I saw a post that was like, imagine not being a cat person, and then it had this like little GIF reaction thing, right? And then a bunch of people saw it and giggled at it because they're like, oh my God, yeah, I'm a cat person too. Imagine not being like this. I can totally relate. And they left a like. And then I come along and I see this and I personally take offense because, well, I'm not a cat person and I don't have a cat. And I actually have a dog, and I have no desire to have a cat. Therefore, this joke on Twitter must be personally attacking me. And what is wrong with our world? This is what's wrong with people. This is what feminism's done. It's turning people into these cat-loving maniacs. Isn't this disgusting and disgraceful? Let me make a 20-minute video about it.
Editing Sandra here. I just want to pop in and say this. Even the comparison that she's making is nonsensical. Oh, look, the cat ladies. See, this is the problem with feminism. That doesn't even have a connection. Whereas the article, based on what they're talking about, there is a deep connection between women feeling bored in having one sexual partner with feminism. There is a direct link between the two because some of the later waves of feminism push sexual freedom and spreading that cat as much as you can. So there is a connection between feminism and women coming out and saying that it's boring to be with one person for the rest of your life. So even the comparison that you're giving is nonsensical. I just want to pop in here and say that. Instead, you're making an hour and 20-minute video about Brett Cooper's views. You're literally doing the same thing. There are people that don't believe what Brett believes. So by your logic, you should just scroll past, but you're not. You're making a video.
And it's not just Brett who's blowing this out of proportion. One of these women that I don't know if it's like a friend of hers or someone she works with or something like that, but she went on and wrote a whole article basically inspired predominantly by this tweet and also a Call Her Daddy podcast episode. She wrote a whole article for Evie magazine about this. Now, I have issues with Evie magazine in and of itself. I have made a whole video about it. Again, if you want to watch it, I'll link it below. But for now, let's see what Brett and this woman have to say.
But Gina Florio, who I adore, she wrote a great piece about this post in particular for Evie magazine, where she laid out the argument for commitment, for marriage, and she titled it, "Is it boring to sleep with one person for the rest of your life? The truth behind this viral post on X." And in this article, she basically talked about why this tweet is so unsurprising in our current landscape due to the cultural messages that women have received about marriage and sex and what it means to be an empowered woman over the last couple of decades. And, you know, her article was very spot on about a lot of things. She also talked about the dangers of promiscuous hookup culture and not having a steady partner.
Okay, there is a lot to unpack here. And I mean, just from that headline alone, right? Is it boring to sleep with one person for the rest of your life? I can answer that for you without writing a several hundred-word article about it. For some people, yes. For other people, no. For other people, it depends on who that partner is. Done.
You just want to go for a simple answer. Yes, some people no. Some of us want to understand why people fall into those different camps. Not everyone wants a simplistic yes or no binary answer. Some people actually want to understand why these trends are happening. I could literally have this same exact perspective about your video, your hour and 20-minute video. You could just say, Brett bad, and then move on. That could be your video, but no, you have to go in and explain why, give us your reasons, give us your evidence, all of these different things. Guess what? The woman from that article is doing the exact same thing. She's explaining why these different trends are happening. She's explaining from her perspective why some women may feel this way, why some women may feel differently. Not everything has to be this simple yes or no answer. Some people want to dive deeper, and there's nothing wrong with that.
It's really not a big deal. Just let people do what they want.
Just let people do what they want. So let PDF files do what they want. Y'all don't understand what words mean. No, we can't have a society where people just do what they want. That would be anarchy. That would be a dystopian society if we just allow people to do whatever they want. Even in your video, no self-awareness. Let Brett Cooper do what she wants. Let that woman that wrote that article for Evie, let her do what she wants. Why are you criticizing her for doing what she wants? Your logic doesn't even hold water with your own views. That's why I know, like, y'all just be saying stuff. You don't understand what words mean. Because when you say, let people do what they want, girl, let them do what they want. Let Brett Cooper do what she wants without making an hour, 20-minute video. If that's how you truly feel, then you should not have a YouTube channel at all. Why are you doing deep dives into anybody if we should just let people do what they want? You don't genuinely feel that way. But when it comes to somebody critiquing a side that you agree with, oh, you should just let people do what they want. But then you don't have that same energy for people you disagree with. It's not, let's just do, no, this is dangerous, you guys. Oh my God, it's so dangerous. Look at what they're saying. It's so let them do what they want. Your logic, let them do what they want. But no, it's a rules for thee, not for me. You don't keep that same energy. And that's the problem. I wish people across the board would just keep that same energy. If you truly have this principle, then you should be applying it everywhere, not just picking and choosing. It should be applied literally everywhere.
And I am not a choice feminist. I would call myself an intersectional feminist. But in this case, I think when it comes to like what kind of relationship you want, yeah, choice is the important thing. Just let people choose what they want. They're not harming anyone. It's not a big deal. Go for it.
Some people want to make an informed decision. So what's wrong with giving them information about why certain decisions made within your relationships are fueled by different propaganda? Some people want to make informed decisions. So that's why content like that matters, because people who want to seek that information, it should be out there for them. Articles like that, they do the heavy lifting. Now, with that being said, you should cross-reference. You should take in information from different sources. That way you can have a well-rounded understanding of the topic. But not everybody just wants to make a decision willy-nilly. Some people, they want to understand what is influencing them and why. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, girl.
And as for that last bit about the dangers of promiscuous hookup culture and not having a steady partner, well, that's a bit more complicated, isn't it? All types of relationships come with risks and benefits. I think we can all agree on that. And I think it should be up to the individual to be allowed to figure out for themselves which risks to them are worth it and which aren't. But before I dive into that a little bit deeper, I decided to look up the Evie article to see exactly what was said. First up, I want to talk about the opening of the article, in which they mention the podcaster from the Call Her Daddy podcast talking about having slept with multiple men. It doesn't even say how many. Multiple men could mean 3, it could mean 300. It could be anywhere in between. It doesn't specify. So the article says it's all about free sex with whoever you're attracted to, and that free sex is marketed as the most fun, fulfilling, and erotic sex known to womankind. This message has been shoved down our throat for decades now. One of the first TV shows that packaged sex in such a way was HBO's Sex and the City, and who could forget Samantha in particular. And it was all downhill from there. Today, women are bred from a young age to believe that having sex with just one person for the rest of their lives is one of the most boring, devastating endings to an otherwise exciting life. And sure, there are some shows that show the positive sides of having multiple sexual partners. I won't doubt that, I won't deny that. I think they exist, and I think they're a great thing. But there's also plenty of media, perhaps the majority, which still pushes the idea that we all need to, especially women, find the one and settle down. That is still the majority of media. Kind of unfortunately, you know?
You're for spreading that cat as far and wide as you can, based on what you said. You're for, sexual promise. Of course you're gonna have an issue with what Brett Cooper is saying. Of course you're gonna have an issue with the article, because you think it's great to spread that information out there to women, to spread ego as much as possible, as much as they possibly could ever want. That inherently is so anti-woman. It's honestly anti-human to tell anyone to do that, because it is dangerous. You know how rampant STDs and STIs are? There are so many STDs that once you get it, you're locked in for life. I don't give a damn how many PrEP videos or how many PrEP ads you see. You're locked into life for having these diseases. So to tell women, oh, it's great to just it's just great to go, that's anti-woman, because you're not telling them to be safe. I don't care if you say, well, wear a condom. That's still not going to protect you from everything. Herpes can be transferred with a condom on. Condoms break. They're not 100% guarantees, but a 100% guarantee is abstinence. And what exactly is wrong with finding the one? You just sound like a bitter broad who will never find the one. I don't know. Maybe she has a sympathy simp, that a male feminist, okay, that's busting her down, or maybe put a ring on it. I don't know this woman. You sound like a woman who is so anti-finding the one because you possibly can't find the one. So now it's, it's so great to talk about this and that, because that's the lifestyle you want to live, or maybe that's the lifestyle you are living. Like I said, I don't know this woman, but it makes sense why you would be upset with people pushing the idea of finding the one, because it's not going to happen for you. Most likely it's not going to happen for you. You have bitter broads out here spreading terrible advice to younger women and wanting to set them up to fail, because, women that have failed, when they see younger women succeeding and getting the thing that they truly want, but they don't want to admit it, when they see younger women getting that, achieving that, it really hurts them inside. It makes them feel like more of a loser. What they'll do is they'll try to influence the younger women to make the same mistakes that they made, so they can sit back and say, well, see, even if I had tried, see, it's power in numbers. It's misery loves company. And I can never respect that perspective. I would prefer messages that tell women to treat their bodies like temples, to have self-respect, to be choosy about who you sleep with, to save yourself, to do all these things, because guess what? That is going to set you up for success. That is going to set you up for avoiding STDs and STIs, avoiding unwanted pregnancies. If you're one of these pro-abortion people, avoiding abortions is going to help you steer clear from a lot of negative outcomes. So there's nothing wrong with telling women, hey, find the one. Don't go out there sleeping with a bunch of people. It keeps getting worse. The more I watch this, the worse it gets.
The idea that kids are being indoctrinated from a young age to think they need multiple partners is wild, since in the past, kids have constantly been told, myself included when I was younger, that we need to settle down and find the one as soon as possible. Just look at almost every single Disney film from before 2010 as an example.
Look at all of the music, from the Taylor Swifts to the Nicki Minaj's, and let's be so for real, the kids aren't just watching Disney. They're not just watching Disney, they're watching all these movies that are geared towards older teenagers and young adults. And they're seeing that same type of rhetoric. And guess what? They're getting that same rhetoric from you when you literally just said, oh yeah, I think it's great. I think this is great to talk about having a bunch of sexual partners. I think it's great. Girl, even you, the things you're saying is promoting it. And it's silly to think that children aren't watching this type of content. It's silly to think that children aren't watching movies that are rated R. It's silly to think that children aren't listening to music that is very explicit. So yes, these messages are still being broadcast to children. Look at TikTok. Look at Instagram. Think about all the content that you see on there. Children are watching that content as well. So to pretend like they're not, oh, they're just watching the Disney. See, they're just watching no, they're not.
Name one Disney princess before Merida who didn't settle down and find the one while she was still a teenager. You know what I mean? But for some reason, conservatives don't see that as propaganda or indoctrination or pushing an agenda just because it matches their own. The fact is that kids are influenced from all the media they see from a young age, and that includes the ones telling them get married, have kids as young as possible, These Disney love stories, the rom-coms, the idea that like so much media is centered around finding your person, the one, getting married, doing all this stuff. Like kids do take that in as much as they would take in I don't know why a kid is watching Sex and the City. That doesn't really happen. But do you know what I mean?
See, you want to pretend like they're not consuming this media, but they are. It's just the willful ignorance. The willful ignorance to try to prove a point. Oh, well, they're not watching that. They're not watching that. Yes, they are.
But the fact is now that we have media that is more diverse than ever, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but different media promotes different values, and this is a good thing. Different media shows different lifestyles and the pros and cons of each, which is a good thing. Plenty of films and TV and books show the darker sides of monogamy too, and plenty show the darker sides of non-monogamy. Again, this is a good thing to show the whole spectrum of experiences. It's good that there is a mix out there showing different opinions and the pros and cons of each, so each person can watch them and say, oh, I like this about this. I don't like this about this. Maybe in my own life I could try this, this, and this because I see there are options available. I know I have options. I'm going to choose my option.
Then why are you critiquing Brett Cooper and the lady that wrote the article for putting out their opinion? All right, y'all. I can't watch any more of this nonsense. I'm sorry. 15 minutes in, it's ridiculous. You're the hypocrite. You're saying it's so great to have all these different ideas out there. But then when Brett Cooper shares her ideas, when the lady from the article shares her ideas, oh my God, it's dangerous. Well, you could just say some people this, some people that. Even in your point that you just made, yeah, it's important for us to have different avenues of getting information and a full understanding of what's happening and getting it from different perspectives. And guess what? Brett Cooper and the lady from the article, they have their own perspective. So by your logic, it's valid. By your logic, it's a good thing. So what are we doing here? In 15 minutes, you have yet to prove anything that wasn't hypocritical or antithetical to a point you previously stated in this same damn video. If you guys want to watch the rest of it, I can't. It's too much hypocrisy on your end 15 minutes in. I gave it a good shot. I really truly did. If you guys want to watch the rest of this video, again, this is Brett Cooper, A Muddled Hypocrite by Rachel Oates. Maybe she cooked later on in this video. I don't know. But if you can't within the first 15 minutes of your video state a coherent point that isn't antithetical to another point you said previously in the same damn video, you've lost credibility. I don't want my video to be super, super long. I guess the main takeaway from this, don't be for or against things, okay? If you are for the idea that people should be able to have access to different ideas and thought processes, then don't be mad that people are then creating those different ideas and thought processes and then putting it out there for people to judge on their own. I am curious to hear you guys' thoughts down below. How do you feel about this whole thing? Do you agree with this woman right here? Brett Cooper is such a hypocrite. She's so anti-feminist. Or do you think like me, where it's like, girl, listen to the words that are coming out of your own damn mouth? I am curious to hear you guys' thoughts down below. If you like this content, like the content. The more you interact with it, the more it gets pushed out into the algorithm. Also, hype the video. I may or may not have that function. If you're feeling a little extra generous, the link is in the description to buy your girl a coffee. Thank you guys so much, and I will see y'all with the next one. Deuces.